Hey, how's it going? I'm Dan Fradenburgh, and this is Chess with Commercial Real Estate Investors. And today I'm joined with Benjamin Vabner, who's eager to get into the space. How you doing today, Benjamin?
I'm good. And yourself, my friend?
I am fantastic. And just so you know the format, I hit the challenge. I think you'll have a little pop up in the bottom right hand or something like that
In the
saying,
chat box?
yeah, it's somewhere in there. There should be a little challenge popping up for that. And you can accept the challenge from there, and we can get started. But just to give some ideas here, there were a couple things that I wanted to share with you, Benjamin. Now you also are an advocate for people with autism.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think that is a hugely important thing, especially because more people are aware of autism in their community, and they need to know how to basically make a society where everybody can contribute effectively. And it's something that I think is a big question mark in a lot of people's minds. Uh, so I don't know if that pop up is showing for me. In the bottom right hand corner.
I don't see the pop-up, but the app is loading, so let's see what happens.
Okay, so I don't know how you are at multitasking, but do you want to say a thing or two on that subject of being in?
Yes, I will start. Okay, accept challenge. Here we go. So, to answer your question, yes, I've noticed within the last year after you and I did our content challenge,
Okay.
which I always refer to,
Hmm.
about 2 years, and then I launched my show on your show, and I've been forever grateful after that because what it took up to a year when I launched Pick Your Brains and the Opinionated Collective. It took a whole year of hosting. I'm sure you can resonate with this
For
just
sure.
to be
One
able to
second
get.
though, you got 38 seconds. You're white. You have to move first, or it'll abort, and we'll have to.
There you go.
Cool. All right, so we can please continue. All right.
So after the content challenge and after I launched my show on your show, took almost about literally 1 year. Now I'm going into my second and third year to really sufficiently get good at being a host and interviewing. And those were the two hardest things to learn in 2 years, but I'm much better off with it. What I
Hmm.
started noticing more last year is finally people on the spectrum started finally seeing the courage that I had, and they begun doing some of their own posting, or the algorithm detected them.
Awesome, awesome. So let's get starting from the basics. Clearly, you're good at multitasking, which is pretty challenging. I've heard some people say that men can't multitask, or I've heard other people. I remember a chiropractor said that it's actually unhealthy for men to multitask. So, do you frequently, as a function of your job, have to multitask, or?
Well, in what I currently do, yeah, because it's effectively, I don't know if anyone's ever worked in a call center environment. You have to in that sense.
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
Like they expect you to take a call, do a message at the same time, book an appointment, and then have it all done under a certain amount of time. So I would agree it's unhealthy, for us to have to multitask that much. But depending on the job you do, yes,
Hmm. Hmm. Hmm.
you,
And
you
did you play much chess at all, like in high
I
school, or?
played chess as a kid. How about yourself?
Yeah, it's I quickly ran out of people to play with when I grew up. It's they just you play 4 or 5 games. They all went about the same way, and then there's no way to really get any better. But me, I play with my son, and so that's why I get to practice all sorts of things. But what's available now is really, really amazing.
It
But
looks so much different and much more user friendly. I mean, I miss being able to play a physical game, but this can be this can definitely be a good, what's the word I'm looking for? Substitute.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And one thing that a lot of people are saying now that I'm just being more vocal about the game of chess, they're very happy about the idea of having something without screen time to do with your kids.
You
So,
know, this has become a hot topic
mm,
with one of my best friends recently. And I have to say this, because he was complaining about technology. Well, I have this to say in terms of, how somebody calls themselves old school and saying, we all spend too much, the phone has consumed us. Like, literally, this is what he said to me last week when I answered a text. You're a prisoner to your cell phone. I'm like, you couldn't just wait 15 minutes till you got home to answer the whatchamacallit. And then ultimately, what I said to my mother is something very interesting. Honestly, if you really want to know why some people prefer being online like this, we know somebody like you is going to have, less judgment of me than somebody I've known for 20 plus years.
well,
Like,
if you know your history, even in the late 1800s, they used to act like reading newspapers, people having their nose in a book or whatever, not paying attention to the surroundings. You heard the exact same complaints you hear now about cell phones. So it's clear that the behavior is just straight out, it's some that you're doing something I don't like, and I'm going to complain about it. So,
and you know what? This is the whole problem I've noticed with our society. I'm sure other people across the globe could see it too.
mhm.
If you don't want us to complain, if you want our attention, you could stop making piss poor jokes and acknowledge that we're all adults now and we're not high school kids at a certain point. Because it's funny, even though I've known you for 2 years, I've interacted with your whole commercial in real estate community. Everyone's a very different age, and you can account for it. You all acknowledge and see me as an adult for somebody who's known me for 20 plus years,
Hmm. Hmm.
even within your industry. Yes, I'm sure you know that, not everyone can afford an apartment or afford to be able to invest, but, they can set it as a goal and work toward it. Imagine talking with one of your best friends that you've known for a very long time and he can barely acknowledge that, you know, you don't have the money that he does. And he sits there and tells himself, la, 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 Ben's doing fine. Not really.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's a real tough one, especially because there's laws involved, and well, I guess the term people need to know is the term pro forma, and whenever somebody's being presented with an investment opportunity, they call it a pro forma. In other words, they're saying it's like, well, this is what we think as a projection will happen in the future. But I don't know near where you live, near New York, but do they sell crystal balls for seeing into the future?
No. Do
Here?
they sell crystal balls up in Canada?
Yeah,
Oh, you
yeah, they smell like maple syrup though, and everything. All they say is, "I see in your future more taxes."
and it's funny because I was just reading about that in your country. The prime minister is raising capital gains all the way up to, like, what is it? Close to like 66.
Yeah, yeah. I haven't looked at it, but yeah, it's a pretty scary prospect.
I haven't looked at I haven't even paid attention to the US presidential election a lot this year. And you really want to know one of the big reasons why, and I'm not even political because I think, I've ever since starting podcasting and YouTube like yourself, I've learned something about myself.
Hmm.
It's it's given me a big distraction to kind of, cope with things that are going on with my life, but it's also gotten me to finally understand and I I I find myself not necessarily defending the real estate community, but what I say to most of my friends who try to say, oh, it's the real estate community's fault, we can't get X, Y, and Z. I'm like, so somebody who wants to invest minimum 50,000 into like an apartment complex just to get some money back should get demonized just because he's getting a return.
It's a great answer.
And it's to also acknowledge that I have a wide open mindset to be able to understand. I don't think people in the real estate industry are necessarily the world's most perfect person, but I've also seen through your community that there are plenty of people who were probably working for about up to 15 years that, you know, they want they want to be able to make their money work for them. That was the whole point of anyone, going into some level of business or investing in the first place. You want your money to work for you in the future.
Absolutely. But you're in check with this pawn here. And
That's why I couldn't move anything.
right.
It's been so long since I've played this.
Right. Okay, yeah, I wasn't. I wanted to make sure. Fortunately, you got about 10 minutes left to come up with a plan. Uh, that's the sum total of all of your moves left. But you also get 10 seconds extra each time. But
Yeah,
so about
I just freed myself.
you just what?
I
Sorry.
just put my I just put my I just put my white knight on your rook.
Yeah, yeah. So anyway, so about autism then. So like as
Yeah,
far as the absolute basics, people hear about being on the spectrum. I understand that I one of the fundamental problems of psychology and the mind is that people change their mind all the time. They're like one way one moment and then they're another way another moment because they got hungry or something like that, right? And then there's also, it's like, how do you really verify whether somebody has really understood the information that they've been asked to recall? And that's a problem because you could either force them to parrot, say the exact same thing back that was just said, or you could try and ask some sort of comprehension question. But if they're hungry, they might not answer. I'm just trying to give a really tame.
no, I can understand the example. So to clarify this question, what I would say to you is this: the mind works differently for every autistic.
Okay.
So as I've been running the show, and I just recently launched a service this year through the help of a very close friend of mine who was one of my second or third guests, and she's a registered clinical therapist. I did One of my services now is I'm available to train therapists at clinics and mental health clinics, government agencies, corporations, and schools. I'm smart enough to live the experience to also be able to explain the difference to people. I function autistic like myself is able to comprehend things in a more coherent, efficient manner than somebody who's might be lower functioning.
Hmm.
So we call me we in clinical terms you call that mildly autistic versus severely autistic,
Hmm.
meaning I'm mildly or higher functioning autistic, so we can hold a conversation. But somebody who didn't function the same as me, that needs more government benefits and more government help for different types of therapies, would be considered a lower function.
Okay, so an example of that would be somebody who just can't handle the idea of a clock and a schedule, right? Like I think that would be one of the.
Yeah, that would be a good analogy, actually. Somebody who probably developed a lot slower than
Yeah,
I.
right, right. Okay. And so
That's a terrific example that you just gave. Yes.
great, awesome. So the other one too, and like this is the great thing of you being an advocate on this subject. I like that move. I really like that move.
I just caved you in too, I think.
I know I have at least one escape.
But
But
see, you're a chess master.
yeah, right, exactly. This is good stuff. So yeah, okay, yeah, I don't think. Oh, if I go, yeah. Oh, wow. Okay, yeah, I got to go all the way back there. Far out. The reason why I say that I'm really glad that you are an advocate for autism is that I can actually ask you the questions that I really want to mention, or things like, like other people would be sensitive to. So what I'm trying to do is get some sort of idea of, like, when they say that autistic people tend to process information differently. If you recall, right before this call, I said that one of the biggest keys, I think, in any situation, maybe like if you just weren't really given a whole lot of space to speak when you were young, so you're just behind in development for that, it really comes down to being articulate. If you
Yes.
so you can have all sorts of wild stuff going on in your head that's not going on in other people's heads, and as long as you can articulate it, then suddenly you're not nuts, or you're not developmentally challenged, or you're not whatever it is. Okay, and I say that as a creative person, right? So if you're like a musician, it's totally normal for you to walk around with a tune in your head that is just as loud as if the stereo was playing. And you're like, like whatever you're doing. And I think that kind of creates a bridge between what people perceive as normal and not normal. I love that move too.
Well, if we're going to talk about normal versus non normal, I have a theory that
Mhm.
most people who are not creative like yourself will have a much more difficult time understanding somebody who is on the spectrum because they're undiagnosed. I call a large majority of the population, depending on the person, undiagnosed, not probably by their fault, but because they're not aware of it or they're living in denial.
Mhm.
I think would be the best way to look at that.
Mhm. Mhm. That makes
I like, for example, before my buddy's wedding 2 years ago, there was somebody who I finally cut off out of my life last year. It was just a toxic friend. He revealed to me that his job had him go get evaluated because over the last, let's say, 19, 15 years, he's been an uncontrollable loose cannon in corporate America. And
mm,
then they finally said to him, we think you're autistic or something is wrong with you. You need to go get clinically evaluated. So it turns out he got a late diagnosis similar to Sir Anthony Hopkins at 80. And then he basically was living in denial, wouldn't go seek help, with a therapist or what you call a counselor up in Canada.
mm.
And basically, it just came down to the fact, as much as I felt sorry for the guy, at a certain point, I'm like, you're going to have to live with this for the rest of your life on some level and learn how to accept it. But making fun of somebody who already has the challenge isn't a good thing and has had longer to live with it.
Mhm. Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
like I said, this is what I mean. A lot of people are in denial and probably just undiagnosed because, it's about your surroundings and about your upbringing.
Mhm. Mhm.
I
Yeah.
mean, I'll give you one more good example on differences between our country.
Okay,
Look
but
at
don't forget, you
age
only got 6 minutes. So please continue.
6 minutes for the call.
No, 6 minutes before you lose on time.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So look at the presidential election this year. How
Yeah.
old is the incumbent? How old is the opponent?
Yeah. Beyond the average lifespan of a male, I believe, in both counts. I'm pretty sure
These are the two
72.
oldest candidates to ever run in a United States presidential election, and that's not a good thing. In
Yeah.
Canada, I mean, this guy's not perfect, but at least he's under the age of 60.
Right. Right.
I
Yeah.
don't think this guy's great at all himself, but the point is he's more age appropriate for government and, cognitively stable enough. He's just special.
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't want to get too political because we both agree, but for your audience purposes, better just to remain impartial with this kind of thing.
Yeah.
That's another lesson I learned through doing all of this.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think I have you in mate in one though. I think your only legal move is to move your king to E1, the dark square right behind you, because my queen's kind of giving you a kiss, and then my dark square bishop, yeah, I'll pre-move it.
I don't even think it's not letting me move.
You can only move up into the top row. It's the only legal move.
Which shows how long it's been since I've played chess.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's. I think you did really, really well.
Yeah, I mean, for somebody
Quite
who
good.
hasn't played in a really long time.
Right. Yeah, yeah, definitely. But
And
you
I have something that I did want to say completely about your real estate space.
sure.
You and almost everyone in it all have different mindsets, different ways to look at things, but you're all kind of more accepting than people who I've known for a very long time.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I think it's because when you become an entrepreneur, especially when you're in real estate, and like basically so much of it is running off of
Or
your
media,
own.
like myself, since I'm starting out like you did, which was in media.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And it's funny because, I've been interviewed a few times. Oh, how did you get into real estate? How did that really go? And one of the first things I open with now with people in the space is I do not recommend my path. I do not think that this is the smoothest path to go is through media and online. I think that there are a lot of people who are competing for the space, and differentiating yourself is pretty difficult. But
Let me say this on that point.
mhm.
I tell every time I comment on somebody's LinkedIn posts, I actually say something similar to you, which is I will never recommend, even on my own, when I do my own posting, I will never recommend entrepreneurship, but it works for some people. It's not going to for everybody.
Mhm.
I get that. Some people would rather just be employees, but unfortunately, for people like you and me, it's tricky because you reach a point if you're employed in my case where, like you said to me in Messenger the other day, I'm not getting the opportunities because they don't think I'm capable.
Mhm.
Okay, so what's the answer? Then the answer is to have to create something for yourself.
Yep. Yep.
Like one of your friends out in California who ended up having a disease or a life changing illness that kind of took her away from corporate America. And I just went to her summit a couple of weeks ago.
Mhm.
She had some amazing guests. You know who I'm talking about too. You
Mhm.
know, it's kind of sad that she ended up with that kind of a diagnosis, but it opened up her creativity to figure out other things.
Yep. Yep. And at least she lived in a place where she could get the treatment. So that's enormous.
Yes, minus the fact that she would say if you live in certain areas, like for example, New York, Ontario, Los Angeles, don't don't invest in these areas.
Yeah. Yeah. Live where there's rent control if you're going to rent, and invest where there isn't any. Yeah.
I mean, if I could get a house here for myself, it would be great. But the renting thing is another curiously funny thing, which is not everyone wants to do, the whole rent for life thing in certain areas because Ontario is just as expensive as living in New York or Los Angeles. In fact, I think Ontario is like 10x the cost of the two major cities.
Right. I know the math, that the taxes are actually the same. But the difference is you get healthcare in Ontario and you get war where you are. That's where the budget's going.
You're not saying anything we don't know about the United States of
Right.
America. I mean, you may not like the health care, but at least you're getting something out of your country. We don't get anything here in this country.
Uh,
Basically, it's
it's
either war or paying for a politician's lifestyle.
I think it works out to about $1 per gallon of gas is what war buys you guys, because I think it's about $1 extra here. But yeah, so you got 15 seconds to move your king up to E1, but that's up to you. It's gonna show up and go blip. But if you do move it, it's gonna go blip.
No, it's not going to let me.
It's
But
not even gonna
hey,
let you, it won't let you go to king E1. It should.
No.
Okay, well there you go. Well, that was really really awesome. So one of the reasons why I wanted to do this is because I think that you can relate to people on a much greater level over a game of chess. You can get past the oh my God, I'm on a podcast a little bit.
I might need to actually consider incorporating this into what I do now because it might actually be a fun icebreaker.
Right. And so like I was asking you earlier about I was trying to get out the number of years it took for you to take for you to get your degree. You mentioned that, and that's one of the only indicators I've had of
9.5 years, almost
right.
basically 10.
Okay, so when you'd say that, like you'd say that, like what exactly is the difficulty for learning? Is it like
The difficulty in the learning was literally when we were growing up. I don't know how you learned math, but that was a major stumbling block for me because nowadays, your kids probably learning it through module based learning. We had to learn back in the 2000s on
right,
chalkboard. So I think once the technology finally started improving over the last decade, when I went back to Mercy and I was finishing up at Mercy College, I actually remember that it started going to module based math, even though Math 116 took me 16 attempts, passed on the 17th. What the difference was the module based maths.
hmm, hmm. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, so with my family, it's different. I ended up taking electrical engineering in university, and that's the craziest kind of math. But I want to let you know that I'm looking at your results here, and you had zero blunders.
Interesting.
Yeah, zero blunders, zero misses. It counts it as three mistakes, two inaccuracies. I had two inaccuracies, no mistakes, no misses.
So we tied.
Sure, you could say that. Yeah, I have this. Here's the breakdown right here. This is the evaluation. Whoops, this is the evaluation bar on the side, and it shows you how it thinks the game is going. So if it's predominantly black like that, it's saying I got an advantage. But then from here, let's see. So it still stays the same, stays the same, stays the same. So and this is these are the kinds of things. Yeah. So it's mate and one, right? Yeah. So yeah, you were supposed to go right there, and this was coming right. Oh, sorry, not that one. It was this one's coming right there, and that'd be mate. So there you go. But I think you did really well. And the other reason why I wanted to use your performance as a bit of an example, I don't know if you got far enough in chess to find it out, but if somebody is going to win at chess, what do you think is the real reason?
Because they're strategically smart.
Okay. Okay.
What do you think?
So I thought that it was a factor of how smart you are. Your ability to calculate out definitely matters. Your willingness to calculate it out matters more than that first one, that's for sure. But the bad news is it's actually experience. It's
Ah,
it's definitely experience. It's
that makes sense.
yeah, yeah. So that's really the magic sauce. It's because like even if you are you got some serious horsepower upstairs, it's pattern specific to the geometry of this game, and so then it becomes pattern recognition. I actually find it somewhat similar to if you've ever been to a city with lots of wavy, stupid roads because there's a river nearby and British
Yeah, I
people
can
live
see
there.
that.
Yeah, yeah. So remembering your way around a city like that is very similar to getting further at chess and realizing it's like, oh, don't turn left at this intersection because then you'll be at that mess down, another block. It's better to just keep on, past and then turn left two intersections later, like that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So there you go. Anyway, so that's great, and yeah, I think you did a fantastic performance there, and I appreciate you joining me. I look
Of
forward
course,
to.
and I'm glad that I could do this. Can you do me two things before you end? The recording that I did with you, 2 years ago. Can you send me that and then send me this? Because I'm going to load them to my YouTube channel.
Sure, sure, absolutely. And don't worry, I'm not going to hang up on you. I'm just going to say
Yeah.
good evening, good morning, good ever it is to the audience right
Yep.
now. And thanks for watching again. Make sure you subscribe if you want to catch up with Benjamin. He's very active on LinkedIn. So
Yes. And also, when you release my episode, I'm going to link my YouTube channel on your LinkedIn post so people can start, finding it. Because honestly, just like what was really refreshing is the person we were just talking about in Los Angeles, she got inspired to podcast because of me. I'm
nice.
glad I at least have that effect on people
For
talking about
sure.
something long enough.
That's awesome. That's awesome. All right. Thanks again, Benjamin.
Well,
does nothing but put more money in the pot.
Right.
If we talk about just the investor side, I mean, Shane talked about the sponsor side a little bit. I'll talk about the investor side. Okay, so you want the most money in terms of return with the least risk. All right, you want to do it yourself, you can go get 13 or 14%. You're going to do all the underwriting, it's not going to be passive.
If you bet, probably not.
I think I'd have to bet at least 2,500 before they fold.
And the pot is
4,000.
4,000. Yeah, I think you're right, but I'd rather just check.
Okay.
First position, you have the right of collection and the right of foreclosure or sheriff's sale, wherever you're at.
Hey there, are you interested in commercial real estate deals? Would you like to build your network of investors and deal sponsors? Well, the best thing I can do for you is have you appear on a chance encounter interview as featured on dandoesdeals.com. You may know me from 506BME or as a top commercial real estate voice on LinkedIn. And if I had to think of the top factors in your success in commercial real estate, my top two would be your network and your ability to effectively explain how deals work with effective communication. The 15-minute chance encounter format, it checks both of those boxes, and they ensure that you can share your private deals with me without the SEC calling it a public solicitation. So hop onto LinkedIn. You can see my name is over here, Dan Fradenburgh, and search for my name. And the best way to reach me and book that is to message me through LinkedIn. And don't worry, it doesn't matter if you decided to enter this space just last week or 2 weeks ago, or if it was decades ago. It'll be fun and easy to look good. We're just asking multiple choice questions based on your core competencies you look to contribute, your level of sophistication, all that kind of stuff. So I hope to hear